Hi and welcome to our third podcast. I'm Raj, my background is in film, design, media and technology.
And I'm Mike, and you may know me from Google Apps, community management, startup growth and being all over the internet.
You are here because you're a Kiwi that either works in or has a great passion for tech and media in New Zealand.
Episode 3, and we've worked out the microphones. We've got our first interview and tons of news, so hey, let's crack into it.
Apple, of course, had WWDC this week, Tuesday our time. The focus was on software and developers this time. No mention of any new hardware to speak of, so I'm still waiting on my phablet.
Oh, does that mean you're going to go for a note?
We'll see. Year's not over yet. The buzz was more about what devs can do to integrate between iOS and Mac OS better. Some of the highlights were integration with Touch ID, so more apps will be able to use it. Handoff, where you can have seamless integration between apps as you run between all your iDevices. Instant hotspot, where you can just turn on your Mac rather, and suddenly you're on the internet straight away. A bit more integration with your phone and your laptop for phone calls and SMS messages. Also, HealthKit was a big one.
HealthKit, I saw a tweet from healthkit.com saying, we love that name, Apple. Thank you.
That's right. So there's going to be an issue there.
Yeah, well, just get a name that Apple likes and then you make lots of money.
That's right. Yes, just sit on a domain for many years and see what happens. Also, they've got, for devs, extensions is a big thing, where they can integrate all sorts of parts of their apps that they could never before, access Apple-centric data, etc. And they also come up with a new programming language, which is just an augmentation of Objective-C, but it's called Swift, and it's brand new, and it's supposed to be better, bigger, brighter than ever.
I wonder how many job interviews or job descriptions now, adverts, we'll see out there saying must have 3 years of Swift experience. Or even CV saying, I've got 2.5 years of Swift.
Oh, he's a Swiftie. Yeah.
Swiftie. Putting a Swiftie.
So in the end, the message was to developers that their platform was more secure yet flexible enough to help with the great things Android developers have been doing for years. So it should be an interesting few months.
It should be indeed. Talking about some of the other bigger boys, Microsoft announced their New Zealand Awards recently. So for all the Microsofties out there, and let's be honest, New Zealand is still a Microsoft-run country, especially in the bigger organisations. The company's list is a great guide for tech workers to plan where to go and work. If Microsoft are giving these companies awards, they must be quite good. So this is your list and where you fire off your CV. The usual suspects were winners, of course, Datacom and Provoke and Genai. But there are also some companies I've not come across before. They were medal winners such as Theta, SoftSource, that's a very Microsoft sort of name, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Enlightened Designs. So those are ones to look out for. It also gives a sense, so go and check out the list, it gives a sense of what is important to Microsoft and what areas they'd like to see companies working within. So cloud, anyone? There's cloud there. They've got 3 categories of cloud.
Cloud for everybody.
Cloud for everybody. And so if you're sitting there wondering who to go and work for, there was an IT skills shortage. Look, this is going to be a headline forever, I think, in New Zealand. This one particularly had Google. The Google country manager was mentioning that New Zealand is, we really need some developers out here. So it's going to go on forever. It's great if you're a graduate, so get amongst it, people.
So, Mike, you're off to some event on Thursday. Was it black tie or jandals only?
It was a mixture, to be fair. It was the Deloitte Fast 50 launch. This is a competition that Deloitte ran to find the top 50 growing companies within New Zealand. They don't have to be tech necessarily, but they were on stage. Probably 2 tech companies, beg your pardon. So I went along on Thursday to their went and launch, and whilst I enjoyed the beer, the nibbles and the conversations, and it was a mixture of suits, your standard Wellington suit people, the Deloitte very nice suits people, and a whole bunch of startup people actually. So Link Gaskin was there with, and a whole bunch of Spiral people, Lightning Lab winners were there. So it was an interesting group. But what I'm confused about is how the actual competition works, because you have to apply. So you have to apply to be in the competition. So you go to their website, and all the websites and links will be in our show notes. And I'm not sure what people get out of this. You do get a great event, by the sounds of it, and you get to hear some great people talking. Or is this merely a fishing exercise from Deloitte's point of view, so they can find out who these people are? And
yes, get them in early, right?
But during the event, they had 4 wonderful panelists talking about how their companies have grown, and I managed to squeeze in the final question of the session. So I asked them what 2 pieces of advice would they give companies to grow out of their local pond, say from New Zealand, from Wellington into New Zealand, and then into the wider pond of the world. The event was filmed, so do check out their answers because they were very, very good answers. I hope Deloitte share it with us. If they don't share it with us, I'll just tweet out all the answers that I can remember. And there was advice from Alfiro, excellent Wellington-based, or Wellington and Auckland-based mobile app company. It's growing massively. Pick's really good peanut butter. Now, I didn't know about this, but my wife did.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful stuff.
It's good stuff, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's from down south. It's great.
Fantastic story. Very engaging pickers, I must say. And I think it was Rob from Tuatara who had some superb advice about people who are exporting. And I do apologise to the other person. I can't remember quite who they were and what they were from. But hey, look, if Deloitte don't share it, I'll tweet out the answers I can remember. So, jobs are up, jobs are down. We don't have enough jobs, but they're not being advertised, according to Gary Roberton, who put out on IITP website that jobs on Seek dropped by a whopping 16% from April to May. I suspect this is, as Gary mentions, either an anomaly or I think this has got, more to do with Seek than actual jobs being advertised.
I'd say so, yes. Yeah, there's many other ways to advertise a job besides Seek.
Correct.
Though Seek probably don't realise that themselves. I also found this story on the interweb, something that not many outlets have sort of mentioned. Google plans to invest more than $1 billion in a fleet of satellites to expand internet access around the world. So I guess the balloons are out or put on hiatus, or there's not enough gas, so they're looking at satellites. So that could be an interesting new venture for them. So they want to, basically the idea is to have low orbiting satellites across the planet connecting everyone, but we don't know yet if it's going to be cheaper, better internet, or it's just something for Google to play with.
I wonder when we can actually use the word Skynet word. Is it now or
I think it's
still
there.
early?
Yeah, the overlords are here. There's about 3 major overlords, right? And we all belong to all of them. So
fair enough.
I guess we're done here.
So Rowan Simpson
Simpson,
has let loose on the New Zealand incubator scene. He's done a wonderful post on his own blog about the reality distortion field. I highly recommend people go and look at it. The link will be in the show notes, and let Rowan know your views as well. The comments are excellent. So are the startup incubator, whatever they're called, places around New Zealand and Wellington, are they just squeezing the startups, or are they actually helping?
So you think it could be more of a factory rather than a genuine startup?
Could well be.
Yeah.
Rowan's definitely got his views, and I'm tending to lean towards Rowan, but I don't know.
Maybe there's a place for both.
Could well be. Could well be. In other news, I was talking with someone recently, and we're not the only podcast that's just started. Did you know this?
No.
There's an Agile podcast. For any developers out there that are using Agile development techniques, Scrum and what have you, there's a new one coming from Nomad 8. We have mentioned Sandy before. It's not quite out yet, but it's Wellington in action. It's awesome. So go to their website, nomad8.com, and check out the Agile podcast. And finally, software patents. Should we have them? What do you reckon, Raj?
I'm over the whole trolling aspect of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So Orion Health, who have been one of the growth tech companies in New Zealand, are very firmly saying no, we should not have them. And we should not back down on the New Zealand position of no software patents. So I agree with them. What do you think?
And that's what's happening this week.
Earlier this week, Raj and I popped along to the very funky Optimal BI offices on the terrace here in Wellington to ask one of their co-founders, Victoria McLennan, a few questions about what it's like to be a company in the New Zealand tech community. What about the moves to Auckland from Wellington? And is there more to tech than just computers? Enjoy her wonderful insights. Welcome, Access Granted people. This is the first of our promised interviews. Now, we said we were going to interview someone every week, and now we're lining them all up. And I'm very happy to say thank you very much, Victoria from Optimal BI has said I will be the first of the interviewees. So I'll let Victoria introduce herself. She's from Optimal BI. Victoria, tell me and our beautiful listeners all about yourself.
Hi, I'm Victoria. Most people call me Vic. I don't like Vicky. Really important, that last part.
Okay.
Yep. So I'm an old techo. I spent my early working life with Oracle technology and have had lots of goes working for big, ugly companies doing things with big Oracle databases over the years, and commonly known as a former DBA. So I'm one of those horrible people that developers hate. But as a techo, I pretty much realised quite early on, even in my early 20s, that I was much better at bossing people around than I was at doing the work, so bossing other people to do the work. So I kind of naturally fell into a career path being a team leader and customer servicey person, account manager type person, and moved from working for big uglies to smaller companies, which I found fitted my personality quite well. And then for my sins, decided I need to have a crack on the customer side of the fence after 20 years of working on the supplier side. So I had a few years working in a state-owned enterprise, which happens to be Transpower, as a senior manager, one of only 5 women in that organisation in senior management roles. So that was pretty interesting, learning about being on the customer side of the fence, learning about their approval processes, capital versus index rules, all of the wonderful things. And I got involved in Public Records Act legislation, which you might dear to your heart as well.
Oh, absolutely. I know all about that beautiful piece of legislation.
Yes. So,
love the principle, hate the laws.
Good wee learning experience for me. And then when I retired from Transpower, I decided I'd retired from IT and spent a year focusing on my firewood and composting landscape supplies business in Nelson, instead of doing anything with technology. So I basically spent a year outdoors doing cool stuff, learning about different composting techniques.
Fantastic. So you moved from Wellington to
No,
Nelson?
I stayed in Wellington because my kids were both in their last couple of years at secondary school at the time. Really pissed off, Mum, you're not meant to spend time at home when we're at this end of our school life. You should have been at home when we were 5. So I was flying over to Nelson for a week at a time, every couple of weeks, basically, and doing things remotely and doing things here with my nieces and nephews, which was fun. During that year, Shane, my business partner in Optimal BI, spent the whole year trying to convince me that I really wanted to own a BI company. And he was eventually successful. Took him a while to wear me down.
So he dragged you back to tech?
He dragged me back to tech.
Did you miss it though?
I
when
did.
You were out composting?
I did to an extent. There's a couple of things about the tech sector that I really appreciate now. One is we work with pretty intelligent people and you have good debate and conversation, and people are happy to have very strongly polarised views. So I missed that aspect, and I missed the innovation that you get from the tech industry. I know there's quite a bit of innovation in kind of composting landscaping, but it's slow-moving innovation.
That's what composting's all about. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Them worms, they don't innovate that fast.
Yeah.
No. So, I missed the innovation side of it and the people, pretty much. So here I am.
So you came back.
3 years later, I'm still here.
Very cool. So you came back to, though, not the big SOEs and your previous life, but to a much more smaller, what's been called the Wellington tech community, I suppose. You became one of those people.
Yep. So I joined just over 3 years ago now. Shane incorporated the company 6 years ago, and essentially he went contracting and amassed some contractors. So I talk about us being 3 years old, but he'll talk about us being 6 years old. And we basically were a startup. It was just us the first couple of months working from my home, and then we went to a serviced office, and we've been through all of the startup kind of life cycles. So yeah, it's pretty interesting engaging with completely different people that I'd never met before.
Yeah. And a different within the and I put it. I'm doing air speech marks so everyone knows what I'm doing. The tech community in Wellington. Everyone talks about it. Having been someone that would have been, or as a business that would have been classified as part of that tech community. What's your view on what it actually is? Does it exist? Is it thriving? Is it growing? Is it changing from when you started?
So I think it exists now in a way that it didn't exist 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, generally speaking, Wellington had a lot of international vendors here and a few smaller infrastructure-y focused vendors, and not as many development shops or web developers or iPhone development type shops. So it's changed a lot even in 10 years, and then even more dramatically in the last 3 to 5 years, where there's a lot of smaller startups doing cool things in Wellington than I perceived there were. Maybe it's because I'm more tapped into that community and I'm meeting them all now, but I perceive that there are more startups. There are definitely more incubators now than there were a few years ago, so that construct to support that startup community is here. I think Wellington's quite successful from that perspective for a couple of reasons. One is we're a small city and people can walk around and you bump into people you know in the street. Yeah. So there's that fabulous opportunity to collaborate and consult and just, hey, I'm doing this cool thing, and the other person says, hey, I'm doing a cool thing, and then we go off and work on something together. And it's that magic and that simple and that straightforward in Wellington. Yeah. We're quite unique in that regard. So fostering that, I think, is really, really important for Wellington as a city. And then things like Inspiral, that collaborative workspace which has not-for-profits as well as small startup companies, those kind of spaces didn't exist a few years ago. So true. That's a big difference that's changed in this Wellington tech community in the last few years. Yep. And then obviously from talking to you, Raj, made me think about the whole film industry and how that's just ballooned in the last 10 years, which is another dimension of our tech sector, really.
So it's on the up and up. So I probably wouldn't call Optimal BI now a startup. I mean, that's my view. Mm-hmm. The phrase I'd use for you guys, and you're certainly not the Datacom's of the world, and you're not those big and ugly and monolithic. And exactly right. Now, we're sitting in a room, by the way, it's a boardroom and it's a white walls, but they're all drawable. So people have drawn all over them and there's writing all over them. Fantastic way. It's something that the attitude here in Optimal BI is very different to those big monolithic ones. And I'm sure that they probably start off with the same attitude. So I'd probably call you guys not startups, but not underway or survivalists. And there's a number of companies I'd probably put similar to you guys talking about the Wellington tech community now. What's it like to be one of those survivalists, I suppose?
So Wellington's a government town, and traditionally for tech sector companies the money and the work has come from government. So that's changing. The government has over the last 2 terms basically tightened their belts and said we want to do more with less. Technology costs are changing. You think about the cost of hardware has gone down significantly. The big hardware vendors just are barely present in our city anymore because the hardware's become commoditised. As you know, in the space that we all work in, cloud-based offerings and software as a service means that apps are becoming commoditised, so big development teams sitting around doing 3 years of coding for $5 million isn't happening to the same extent. It is still happening. So as a survivalist company, I love the turn of phrase, survivalist, finding different ways to survive in Wellington is a challenge for businesses at the moment. There used to be a very buoyant contractor market as well. So a couple of years ago, if you'd asked me who our biggest competition was, I would have said independent contractors. Government's not buying off independent contractors anymore. They've moved to fixed-term employees or outcome-based engagements. So there are contractors sitting around having trouble finding work. So basically the topology of the traditional way we engaged in Wellington's changed. So it's an interesting time to go from being a start-up in a consulting services kind of space such as we are to being a growth company and surviving in this market. And the way that we're doing it, I think, is very similar to what other companies are doing, and that's investing in product so that we augment and change our business model from that traditional consulting hour worked hour paid or fixed monthly fee support model to actually having product software as a service offering that we can get customers who are based anywhere, don't have to be based in Wellington. And that's another aspect of being a Wellington-based company now. You have to be looking at customers who are outside of Wellington geographically. It's a big change, I guess. No longer can you just stand up a business and make all your money off of the New Zealand government agencies as customers.
When you say outside of Wellington, do you mean traditionally, or I've noticed recently, it's Auckland, a lot of Wellington-based software companies or tech companies are opening up offices in Auckland, potentially in Christchurch as well, or are you talking the world, as in a zero approach?
So for us, of course, our business plan is big, hairy, audacious goals, so our customers will be global.
Yep.
But there is something in your comment about Auckland. I went to an event, which I think, Mike, you went to as well earlier in the year, where Wellington City Council and the Chamber of Commerce wanted to collaborate with local businesses. And they made this amazing statement that only 5% of Wellington businesses have moved to Auckland. And I was sitting there mentally totting up how many of my friends have moved to Auckland. So at that point in time, there were 4. Now there's 5 friends of mine who are good friends who are founder owners of Wellington tech companies who have moved to Auckland to grow their business. So their business, they planted the garden. It could have been an analogy you used once. They planted the garden here, but and they're leaving their Wellington business here to be maintained, but they're going and planting a new garden, which is going to be their growth business in Auckland. And these are companies with 30 plus people, so they're not small Wellington tech companies by Wellington terms. So there is something in that the fact that our local economy isn't necessarily supporting them to the same extent, and therefore Auckland's becoming more attractive, I guess, for consulting and often packaged application kind of software businesses. But for us, our customers will be global, so we're already engaging and doing proof of concepts with Australian firms. We've been doing quite a bit of work in Australia for the last 12 months, and I know people who are doing work as we all do in other parts of the world as well, who are primarily Wellington-based shops, so they're dev shops here, but their customers are anywhere, kind of thing. Yeah,
one of the phrases I heard was not necessarily that the business is not here in Wellington, or it's more in Auckland, and it will be more in Auckland because, hey, it's where a third of the population lives, but it's easier to do business in Auckland. And that is potentially a black and white between government and private enterprise. Is that something you've heard?
It's something I've heard, and it's something I've experienced. Doing business in Auckland and even doing business in Sydney, it happens a lot faster.
Yeah.
So there's a fundamental issue where government don't appreciate how long it takes for them to go through an engagement process. We've just had an example with a government agency where we've got probably the one person in the market that can do the work for them. They were busy on another project. It was all hurry up, we want to do it now. Then it took them 4 weeks to get the statement of work signed off because they had to go through their approval process. And what do they expect us to do? Leave our person sitting on the bench for 4 weeks while they get their paperwork done? Whereas in Auckland, we've done work with, admittedly in the finance sector, but basically rock up, talk about it, scope the work, it's signed up, and we're doing it within a week. It's a completely different engagement model.
Yeah. Well, for enterprise, it's usually a cost issue if it takes too long, right, to do something.
Absolutely, and for us, it turns us off as a supplier. It's kind of, we spend our time thinking, well, we don't want to do work with that government agency anymore. And you're right, the economy is bigger in Auckland, so there's more opportunity. And the other thing that we're finding is we do work for banks, and the people we're dealing with inside those banks are gradually moving to Auckland as well. So therefore, the work is being initiated in Auckland, and they're wanting resources who are Auckland-based, who may not be necessarily on site, but they want to be able to reach out and touch them.
Yeah.
So we're finding that with the banking sector is driving a bit of the Auckland stimulation as well.
Fair enough. I might, if they want to reach out and touch you and it's going to be stimulating, probably won't all work with them either. Hey, look, that was fantastic. On that dodgy note, thank you so much, Vic, for taking us through. I hope that was useful to everybody out there listening. I know it was insightful for myself and Raj.
Absolutely.
This is your chance, Vic, to tell us about Optimal BI, what you do, and where people can find you. And potentially, what's the next cool thing that you would like everyone to know about?
Right. Well, we our tagline is we make information visible. Our internal purpose or vision statement is we innovate early, prove it fast. So we like to try new things, but we also don't go down the cul-de-sac for too long. So we try new things, we prove whether they work, and pivot or stop working on that. We come from traditional BI roots, so traditionally partner with SAS, Oracle, IBM, Microsoft for technology type projects, but increasingly we've found our sweet spot has been in a couple of areas. One is around cool visualizations, so we do a lot of data-driven infographic work for people.
Fantastic.
So,
Love infographics.
and
All about them.
infographics are awesome.
Yeah.
And sexy infographics are even awesomer. And infographics where you can take your business case to your board with an infographic to visualise it, we've found has actually been quite a successful technique. And we've done quite a bit of work in that space, and it's worked really, really well received.
Picture tells 1,000 words,
Oh,
fundamentally.
for sure.
Yeah.
And
that's
especially
fascinating.
when you can then reference where the data's come from and therefore how the infographic was compiled. So that's been a bit of a sweet spot for us. But in recent times, as I said, we've been considering how we evolve and move and grow and change to service a larger market. And we've built currently a private cloud-based BI data warehouse platform hosted with Amazon, using Amazon Redshift as the back end, and partnered with some Amazon partnered ISVs, Yellowfin and Attunity for data acquisition, Yellowfin for visualization, and RapidMiner for analytical and data mining, and have put that together in a fixed monthly fee, cost-effective managed service way. So
Beautiful.
we're trying to get away from the rock up, do a traditional data warehouse project. 2 years later, the business might see some data come out the other end. To, hey, we can stand it up, start data acquisition right away. We've moved to Agile and DevOps style of development. So we can basically pick up and pass through a slice of your data, and you can see it within the first 2 weeks of being engaged with us. So that's our offering. And it's cool, and it's cost effective, and it's fun, and our team are really coalescing behind it, and we're getting great engagement from those vendors, particularly in Australia, with leads coming from Australian companies who are looking for different ways than build a big on-premise buy hardware offering. That's called Magnum BI, and you can find out about Magnum BI at www.magnumbi.com.
Magnum BI.
Yep.
There we go. I wonder where that came from. Comes with a moustache?
It does. It comes with a moustache. We have moustache tattoos, so anyone who wants to drop by our office anytime, you can get a moustache tattoo. We have moustache T-shirts.
And if you do get the opportunity to come to the office, come to the office. It is a very, very cool office.
Just watch out for that crossbow in the corner.
I know. We have a few toys. So one of the things when Shane and I got to the point with our business that we needed an office, basically, we'd outgrown the serviced office we were in, we wanted to build a space where our Wellington-based staff would be able to come back to all the time, where if we have staff who aren't based in Wellington, we've got the technology to be able to be hooked up and connected with them all the time, and where we can have parties. And so we've kind of created a really casual space. It's not too formal.
That's great.
Of our 400 square metres, 100 square metres of it is our kind of cafe and party space. And we've got desks on wheels so people can move them. We got that from the Valve handbook. Great idea. Yeah. So people can move their desks around and collaborate with different people when they work on different things. We're all wireless, obviously. We're a bit mad on Macs, so most people have MacBooks. And we have lots of toys. So we have a system where if Shane, who my business partner, likes to buy toys, if he sells something, he can buy a toy, basically. So,
nice.
Yeah,
I see.
So
very
it's
cool.
his reward. So we have a few toys around the office, like the Spaceys machine in the corner and the pinball machine.
Excellent.
Yeah. So
where can the people find you, both online and physically?
So www.optimalbi.com is our website. Physically, we are on the terrace in Wellington in the building that's in between the Novotel and the James Cook, and we're on level 4, and it's called Optimal HQ, which is a play on the names as in our headquarters.
Mm-hmm.
And we run a Wellington BI meetup group called Wellington's All About BI. The next one is actually next Thursday in our offices, and you can find that on meetups.com. We're also starting to run some AWS specific meetups, so we run a Redshift. So if anyone is interested in Amazon Redshift, we run a Redshift meetup group. We're probably going to run a Data Vault one because we're finding a lot of people are interested in Data Vault, data warehousing technology. Methodology. I'm getting way too technical now.
That's okay. The people who are listening will know what you're talking about.
I'm sure they will.
I went a bit glassy eyed, I know, but no, it's okay. You people out there know exactly what Vic's talking about, don't you? Yes.
So we're just trying to create opportunities for people around town to collaborate and get to know each other and talk about their experiences, and have some of our people who've already gone down the path of learning about these technologies answer their technical questions in a really informal way. So we put on beer and pizza or some other form of food and have different speakers. And next week for Wellington's All About BI Meetup, we're doing something quite different. We've got Drew from Common Ledger, who's one of those awesome Lightning Labs startup companies who's just gone and got funding. He's bringing a data problem that he would like to solve. It's kind of a real problem, but it's in direct response to the members of the meetup group saying they wanted to help solve real-world problems. So Drew's bringing a real-world problem for people to collaborate on helping solve it for 2 hours. So a bit like a Hackfest kind of thing, but with data. And there are prizes.
That is fantastic. Wow. So that's next Thursday.
Yes, which is the 12th.
The 12th, thank you. It's a 4 o'clock?
I think it's 4:30 kickoff here in our office, so that's level 4, 139 The Terrace. But go to meetup.com and search on BI in Wellington and you'll find it, and feel free to join. Excellent.
Thank you so much, Vic. Now, this was our first interview, and there was a reason that we chose Vic to be our first interviewee, and that was because she's very well connected into the tech community, has some views on the tech community and the way that the Wellington environment works with tech, and sometimes how it doesn't, but also the Optimal BI company, both Shane and Vic have created, through their own personalities, a very welcoming and collaborative space. So I'd highly recommend that people come along and say hi to Vic and to Shane and to all the team. So thank you very much, Vic, for being on Access.
Hopefully we'll have you back on when we have some certain issues we want to pick your brains on.
Okay.
You'll be happy to come on again.
Sounds great. Thank you very much.
That'd be great. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Thanks to Victoria for being our first interviewee, and man, she set a high bar. So, that's it for us this week. Oh, except Mike wanted to ask.
Swearing in the podcast. Should we just fucking go for it, or would you rather we held back? Let us know. Okay, that's us, folks. Shout out time. Of course, Victoria, thanks so much. Also to you gorgeous listeners. And Tony Kennedy for the link during the show as we recorded it to Bernard Hickey's FPOS in New Zealand is doomed post on Twitter. We'll add that link into the show notes.
Also, thanks to AJ Mason at AJ_QT for supporting our show on Twitter. Show notes will be up with the podcast. Look for us on Twitter. Look for Mike on @MiramarMike and myself at NZRaj. Follow this podcast on @RadioNZ and use our #AccessGranted. Or you can email us on accessgranted at #me.co.nz. And for more hashtag goodness from the rest of the group and the network, go to #me.co.nz's website.
Thanks for your time and see you on the next podcast.
#me.co.nz